Scott with SJWellfire.com. Final Days Report, episode 372. How does the UN Pact for the Future, if you haven't heard, there is a pact that multiple nations signed with the exception of Iran and Russia. Supposedly 7 countries did not sign it. How does this UN Pact for the Future and weather weapons play out to enslave you? We're going to weave multiple topics together. I'm going to do my best to make my point clear. But we're going to talk about this hurricane weather manipulation, weaponization, this trauma on our kids. We're going to tie it to how they're brainwashing our kids and they're putting them in literal prisons. Schools are becoming literal prisons with fences around them, AI security, bulletproof windows that you probably can't get out. It's pretty creepy, my friends. And then lastly, we're going to tie this into how they're empowering kids with this UN Pact to have decision-making ability. You can't make this up. This is a formula to enslave you with this beast system. It's quite demonic, and it's borderline brilliant if you are evil. But first of all, if you follow the last 2 podcasts that we've done, we've talked about owning the weather, and I just came across this document, Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. And this was actually written in 1996. And what was interesting within this document is bullet point 5, weather intervention techniques. Some intervention tools exist today, and others may be developed and refined in the future. So they're admitting that they have weather manipulation capabilities. And I took a snapshot of this document, this operational capabilities matrix, table 1, right off this report that was given to the Air Force. Precipitation enhancement, floodlines, decrease comfort level, morale, storm enhancement, deny operations, precipitation denial that can cause a drought, space weather, fog and cloud removal, precipitation avoidance, storm modification, ding, 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 space weather, on and on and on. Own the weather by 2025. I saw a video where not only that we've played before, Lyndon B. Johnson said, own the weather, control the world, but also JFK talked about owning the weather. This is just pure evil. This is a plan. This is a strategy. I want to play a video from Mike Adams where he's going to go over NOAA's own website saying 9 ways to modify and manipulate the weather. So anybody that denies this is foolishness. Is a fool, I should say. Let's play this video.
This is why it's urgent to have you on. Let me just give out your website here. Geoengineeringwatch.org is the site. You can see it right there. Everybody go there, read this site, and you've got documentaries there, and you've got shirts and books and all kinds of things. The dimming is really critical to watch. Also, just to confirm everything you're saying, I'm bringing this up. The NOAA has a weather modification project report webpage. Okay, so this is a government website, the NOAA, Weather and Climate Collections, Weather Modification. And if you scroll down, it lists the 9 methods of weather modification and says that if you engage in any of these, that you have to file a report with the government. And look at number 8, using lasers or other sources of electromagnetic radiation. This would include the ionization that you have talked about, or number 5, releasing electrically charged or radioactive particles or ions into the atmosphere. So boom, all the people denying this, they're blown away. Their arguments are null and void. It's right here on the NOAA website, the things that you've been talking about, Dane. Selective ionization to steer and to accentuate storms, even lasers. And there's also sound waves and seeding and atmospheric particulate, aerosol injection, as they call it. All these things are very real, Dane. What would you say to somebody that's still denying this at this point?
Well, first, my deepest gratitude to you and to Natural News for all your help through the years of bringing this issue to the full light of day, because this is an existential threat. And that kind of edition, like you just showed, that kind of objective, solid, inarguable, factual research data is essential in moving this fight forward. So thank you for presenting that data to people. And we do the same at Geoengineering Watch. And again, this battle is a team effort, and all of us spokes in the wheel, all of us necessary to make it roll. So again, my deepest gratitude to you and Natural News. And as far as the denial of this issue goes, it's patently absurd at this point. This is as I've stated previously, this is an emperor has no clothes moment. I mean, to deny the reality of these operations is simply beyond reasonable or rational at this point. So I think it feels to me, especially in the last week, that we are at that long sought tipping point of critical awareness, and we need to stoke these fires of awareness and keep them burning ever more brightly so they emerge into a giant blaze. And again, we're doing that with our supplying of materials to the Carolina congressman. And Tennessee was damaged quite badly as well, too. Again, spoke to congressman there this morning, an hour video call with some of his constituents, and that damage is quite severe. But I would argue we're just beginning this process, that now those in power are beginning to be exposed. They are more dangerous and desperate than ever before, and we can expect much more. So
Yes.
This needs to come to the proverbial pitchforks and torches moment, Mike. And of all the concerns and causes we have, and there are many legitimate concerns and causes, but if we don't deal with this biggest hole in the bottom of the boat, that's also biological warfare. We've talked about that. Again, these elements are toxic. We're all breathing this material in, and there's no reason to believe they wouldn't add biological elements to this, because we have graphene and polymer fibers in this mix. We know that from our precipitation testing. Those are biological carrier platforms. So we can't know the totality of what's being done to us at any given moment.
Now, the only watch that I have with geoengineeringwatch.org is he is a big global warming proponent. I think that's a complete psyop. Now, before we get into the UN Pact and schools turning into prisons and more evidence of man-made manipulation, I just thought this was interesting. Purple skies right before Hurricane Milton. And I have watched a couple YouTubers really talk about HAARP and the Northern Lights, where the Northern Lights should not be. HAARP was on and at max force. So it's been documented when Northern Lights hit further south where they shouldn't, HAARP is running hot. Just another interesting aha moment for me. All right, let's get into the UN Pact for the Future. This document, I've read the entire document a couple times. It is purely demonic, and supposedly it's not binding. We will see, my friends. Time will tell. But the first point I want to make is climate change was all over this document. Now remember, they had changed the term from global warming to climate change because many climate scientists were saying the Earth is actually cooling. I mean, that's marketing brilliance. Climate change. We have to stop climate change. The climate always changes. And remember, you exhale carbon dioxide. This is a Club of Rome scam that makes you the enemy of Mother Nature. The Bible talks about how in the end of days, people will worship Mother Nature more than the Creator. We're seeing this play out right before our eyes. But Action 52, we will accelerate the reform of the international financial architecture so that it can meet the urgent challenge of climate change. This is your central bank digital currencies, the programmable money, the carbon trackers. This is you not being able to travel in your 15-minute cities, not able to eat beef or any dairy, registering your chickens, everything that we've talked about. There's even a war on gardens, small gardens, that we did a podcast on. Let's continue reading. Climate change and biodiversity loss exacerbate many of the challenges facing the international financial architecture and can undermine progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. We did a podcast on the Sustainable Development Goals, what they really mean. We decoded it. I'll see if I can put a link below. Developing countries should have access to finance to be able to pursue their interrelated objectives of achieving sustainable development, including poverty eradication and promoting sustainable, inclusive, resilient economic growth and addressing climate change. This is universal basic income, communism, global green communism. Investment in sustainable development climate action is essential. The international financial architecture should continue to channel and increase additional financing towards both sustainable development and climate action. Developing countries face increasing financial needs, especially those particularly vulnerable to the adverse impacts of climate change, weather weapons, leading to a growing demand for finance. What they want to do is they want to track everything that you do. Now, here's where it gets beyond creepy, is they want to let kids, children, people like Greta Thunberg, to have a seat at the table with decision making. And you need to think about this. I'm going to tie this into the school prisons that are literal in a prison for their mind, the programming of your children. This just reminds me of Hitler Youth, my friends. But let's read. We will invest in and promote engagement by young people at national and international levels to secure a better future for all. We will recognize that children and youth are distinct groups from future generations. We must ensure that decision making and policy today takes greater account of the needs and interests of the generations to come, and that they are balanced with the needs and interests of current generations. We have annexed a declaration on future generations to a pact for the future that details our commitments in this regard. They want children to have authority. I remember reading some articles of how they wanted to lower the voting age. This is nothing short of indoctrination. And again, I think most of the voting machines are corrupt. But they really want to eliminate the elderly and ultimately bring in this carbon tax, this carbon stranglehold on you. It's beyond wicked, my friends. All right, I saw a video. I actually put this video on my Telegram account where this gentleman went over probably 30, 40 articles of how schools are building fences around them because of the active shooters. This is a prison. I am blown away driving in my hometown, all of the cameras that are out and the heavy, heavy doors. This is to keep your kids safe, supposedly. No, it's a prison. It's to keep them locked in. So it's a literal prison, and it's a prison of their mind. This is nothing short of police state conditioning, my friends, and it's deeper. It's deeper. You need to think about this. When disaster happens, it's a means to take your kids. It's evil. It's absolutely evil. Going off the train a little bit, Biden-Harris administration loses track of 320,000 migrant children with untold numbers at risk of sex trafficking and forced labor. They're building schools as prisons. What happened to these 320,000 kids? I read one report that said 400,000 kids lost with these open borders. You need to think about adrenochrome factories. These Satanists want to defile the youth because it's innocent blood. They want to do their own sacrifices with pure blood because Christ was the ultimate sacrifice. Everything is an inversion. Everything is an inversion, my friends. Here's where it gets even more wild. During the pandemic, they put up 5G towers everywhere. Trump did. That communicates at the cell level, communicates at the nanotech level. This is what I like to call part of the fake Trinity, the fake Holy Ghost. This is part of that mind controlism technology, optogenetics that we've proven within our ministry. If you're new listening, go to SJ Wellfire and search within the top bar, poison poke. This is mind controlism. This is putting the nanotech and the DNA defilement tech in you that ultimately is what I like to call mind controlism. But you need to think about this. 5G towers popping up at schools, not only radiating them, but this mind controlism technology because they have to be poked to go to schools in most cases. What kind of perverts are in school that could mind control your kids and do as they wilt? And yes, there's a history of this, especially happening in elementary schools and nursery daycare centers. All right, found some articles as well. A big push for bulletproof glass, unbreakable glass, securing the prison of your kids, the literal prison. This is a mind prison, an indoctrination camp, but it's also a future prison, my friends. And here's the part as well, this indoctrination of schools are turning to AI for facial recognition security with these cameras. This feeds into that beast system, artificial intelligence driven by quantum computers that, yes, are run by brain cells that I think ultimately will be the Antichrist, with that dream I had in 2008 of the Antichrist getting hit with the spear of destiny. They placed his head on this huge computer, had no idea what a quantum computer was, had no idea what AI was, and he ended up showing up as this hologram. But they're getting our kids used to AI surveillance within the schools. This is a prison. So when they leave, it's part of their security blanket. And when they put these smart cities in this control grid that we've talked about, and even in small cities, kids will accept it. It's part of what they grew up with to keep them safe. That's part of these mass shootings in schools, part of the conditioning and programming. It's a big part of it, my friends. That, and, well, we could tell on social media, his posts, he was going to go on a rampage. AI censorship. AI censorship for pandemics. AI censorship for bullying. They have 3 or 4 different ways they want to censor you on AI to fact check you. Anything that's a fact check, I like to call it a communism check. I throw that at some people I debate with. It's a communism check. I mean, good night, my friends. What a great time to be alive. All right, now here's where it gets interesting with the UN Pact, the Future Pact. So they want to empower kids, right? They want to change the financial system. They want to survey. They want to disarm. I mean, there's a whole bit of things. I was going to do a full podcast on this, just reading what they wrote. But here's where it gets interesting. They're pushing this AI monitoring system to address the risk to sustaining peace posed by disinformation, misinformation, hate speech, and content inciting harm, including content disseminated through digital platforms, while respecting the right of freedom of expression, and to privacy, and ensuring unhindered access to the internet in accordance with international law, domestic legislation, and national policies. They want AI to be instantaneous for what they deem disinformation, misinformation. And Hillary Clinton recently came out and said, hey, we need to really strengthen our laws against free speech. Sue them, jail them. Hillary Clinton has been scot-free with the Clinton body count. I mean, Arkansided, they came up with a term working for the Clintons. Don't be Arkansided. All of this about the kids in their prisons, there's a risk of nefarious things happen to them, but at the end of the day, there's also this programming element to it. All of this reminds me to Matthew 10, and I think this was a scripture that really was about the times that the apostles were living in, but I think it's pertinent today. And let's read. And the brother shall deliver up the brother to death, and the father the child, and the children shall rise up against their parents and cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But he that endureth to the end, that means don't deny Christ, even if it means your head, shall be saved. You can see this programming. It is absolute insanity. All right, so the kids are being indoctrinated to bring forth these carbon dioxide enslavement laws that are coming, but they've been traumatized by weaponry. This is nothing short of man-made madness. And it's just very, very interesting that in Tampa, they want to turn Tampa into a smart city. The predictive programming is insane with Hurricane Milton. I mean, it's right in front of you. It's part of their dark magic. They need to tell you what they're going to do to you so the evil doesn't come back on their head. But we need to ultimately pray and bind their evil with the blood of Jesus Christ. I pray that many of them get saved and become whistleblowers. Some of your greatest whistleblowers on the corruption were on the inside and they woke up. They became Christians. but I bind their wickedness in the name of Jesus Christ. Now, what I found interesting is Noah. We talked about Noah, Noaa, as Mike Adams just said with the first video. According to Trumpet News 1, NOAA has removed 103 pages of weather modification reports that were previously listed on their site. In addition to that, they have removed access to the NEXRAD radar inventory, which listed the locations and information for all the NEXRAD stations throughout the U.S. We're dealing with such evil, my friends. Weather weaponry is real. Global warming is a hoax. Climate change is real because the climate always changes. Satan has but a short time. Check out Final Days Report, episode 371. I think this is biblical, personally. I think it fits Revelation 12 to a T. But next, what I want to do, because we need to memory hole this wickedness, I'm just going to rapid fire a bunch of videos that really shed light on this capability by the U.S. government, by the world leaders. And I personally think nations at the top are shaking hands. They're all Freemasons. They're all part of the Kabbalah witchcraft satanic club. But the first video I want to play is that a trusted scientist, so-called trusted scientist, is on CBS talking about lasers able to manipulate the weather. I'm going to show a video of the hurricane all of a sudden having these ripples in it once it hit Category 5. Now, this is when it was in the Gulf of Mexico. Show another video of laser-looking strings hitting the hurricane. Can't make this stuff up. And show a video of alleged dead birds hitting a ship. HARP, question mark. The hurricane's not even there. I mean, they're just dropping. Remember, 5G. I remember I showed a video. They had 5G tower, and all of a sudden dead bees were all around the tower. And I did a podcast, actually Natural News covered it, where they turned on 5G towers in Europe and birds just started dying all over the place. I'm going to show a Tampa drill. Remember Event 201 before the As Days of Noah Devil Juice was launched? A Tampa hurricane drill called Phoenix. The rise of the Phoenix. Burn the Phoenix down and build it back up. Order out of chaos. God bless you. Make sure you share this, subscribe. Have a blessed day.
Now we're learning that scientists and researchers are looking at how to change the weather on purpose. That's right. Lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning. CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor, nice to see you. Extraordinary seeing Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, they did not get into this discussion, though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really? To change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning. Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong.
Right, and now, my friends, into the stuff you really want to know about. All right, let's take a look at Florida, and already it's looking like a disco party is going on. A lot of different radar activity going on. We got spikes here going all the way into the Gulf, heavy lines up in this area, and then of course we have the one we saw with Hurricane Helene right here going off again. Now, of course, remember, these are just theories that we're talking about here, entertainment purposes only, because no way is weather modification real, right, everybody? Anyway, take a look down here near southern Florida. We got some right angle clouds taking place, a weird situation here ahead of the hurricane. And I want you to think about this, because ahead of Hurricane Helene, we had a very significant low pressure system up by North Carolina already sitting there that then interacted with actual Hurricane Helene, causing the record breaking flooding. Now, just look at this one more time. Take a look at what's going on up here, the disco party, and then look at these clouds down here, making unnatural formations, right angles. We don't see right angles in nature.
Instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts.
Here it is. It's Cat 5, and it's got, the look of a very strong hurricane. But watch what happens right after it achieves 5. Something starts to take place. It gets highly disturbed. Look at the spiral bands coming out from the edge. Like, see these spiral bands?
Winds in the east, mist coming in. Like something is brewing, about to begin. Can't put me finger on what lies in store. I feel what's to happen. All happened before.
And we have Category 1 Hurricane Phoenix just south of Jamaica now. Phoenix is currently expected to make landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula as a Category 2 storm. But of course, always, we are keeping a close eye on this system.
There has been a noticeable shift in the forecast track from the NHC overnight, which now brings Phoenix into our viewing area, possibly as a strong hurricane. Now is the time to begin those preparations, folks.
We have breaking news this morning if you're just joining us. The National Hurricane Center has upgraded our entire viewing area to a hurricane warning as Hurricane Phoenix is projected to make landfall as a major hurricane sometime tomorrow. Mandatory evacuations are in effect for all coastal regions. Forecasters say this storm could be one of the strongest ever to hit the Tampa Bay region.
We cannot stress enough how crucial it is that you finish your storm preparations tonight. Conditions will deteriorate rapidly tomorrow morning, and evacuation routes will quickly become impassable. Please don't take this lightly and heed all evacuation orders.
Folks, this is unfortunately the worst case scenario unfolding for the Tampa Bay area. Phoenix is now a Category 5 hurricane with maximum sustained winds at 160 miles an hour, but wind gusts up to 200 miles per hour. This is catastrophic. It is a historic storm and unfortunately making a beeline right now for our area.
We have a live look right now at North Tampa and Polk Street. I believe this is near Hawa Coffee, and as you can see, the storm surge has completely inundated downtown.
Law enforcement now is reporting that all bridges have been cut off by storm surge. We're looking at up to 20 feet of storm surge in some spots.
We're trapped on the 3rd floor of the Tampa General Hospital parking garage, and the storm surge is up to the 2nd floor of the hospital.
St. Petersburg is essentially an island right now.
A viewer from Brooksville is reporting roofs being torn off of businesses there, so this is a very important reminder that this is not just a coastal storm. We are seeing significant wind damage well inland.
Unbelievable gusts coming through. Oh my goodness.
The damage this morning is unimaginable. The beaches are essentially gone.
The Howard Franklin Bridge is completely destroyed. I've never seen anything like this.
Officials are scrambling to clean up debris from local airports in order for supplies to be flown in. We are getting reports from Homosassa of residents trapped by downed trees.
There's not a single business that we've driven by that doesn't have significant damage.
Tampa General Hospital has told us that they are unable to receive any patients after the hospital suffered significant damage from wind and storm surge. The level of destruction out here is indescribable. It's going to be a very long road to recovery for the Tampa Bay area.
Mm-hmm.